We were standing near the intersection of Wellington and of Metcalfe one summer day when suddenly the police motorcycles roared up and they started closing off streets. And then there was this pause, and before long one heard the sound of a band coming. And then as you look down Wellington, around that corner of Elgin, toward the Château Laurier came the band of the Governor-General's Foot Guard, followed by the Guard heading off toward Parliament Hill. The meeting that you heard described by Myrna in the text between Mary and Elizabeth is for the gospel writer the sound of a band coming. It's those endless commercials that have been running to tell you that Steven Spielberg's new recreation of West Side Story is, yes, going to be on the big screen. It's more than a hint. It's like this declaration that something spectacular is going to happen. Babies are kicking in the womb. Everyone is blessed. It's as if the Queen dropped in for a cup of tea while the King is taking voice lessons in the next room. Or you really do catch Santa Claus eating your milk and cookies in the dining room at night. This meeting is like a flashing road sign that an amazing birth is going to happen on Bethlehem. And more than that, these two infants kicking in the womb will be and will do things that right now are unimaginable, quite possibly world-changing. But we aren't exactly sure what the details are just yet. And in his own way, the gospel writer is like a good novelist, building layer upon layer of this story. And the moment between Mary and Elizabeth is like a foreshadowing, a way of signaling what is going to happen in their lives and in the life of the world. Something spectacular, something unimaginable, world-changing, and we are going to have to wait to find out exactly what will happen. Has God ever signaled to any of you ahead of that moment that something incredible, something life-changing is about to occur in your being? In a time long ago, I only phoned my parents from university on Sunday afternoon because that was the only time in the entire week when the phone rates went down, if you remember those days. So instead, they actually wrote me letters, as I wrote them a letter each week. And even my uncles and my aunts sent me a note or a letter once in a while, and even high school friends occasionally wrote, which meant I couldn't wait until the mail came in. I couldn't wait to see what was in the mailbox and see who had written me today and what news they told. I remember in my first year away from home, it was kind of like a lifeline. Well, this meeting between Mary and Elizabeth had me pondering the idea and the feeling of anticipation this week. Perhaps there's someone or something in each of your lives that you're anticipating about this coming week. Someone who's coming home, someone you're going to go visit. It may even be that you're counting the days until they come. And somehow this moment of the meeting is full of anticipation. Elizabeth just cries out. The baby kicks within her to say that a time is coming. Anticipation, I think, it motivates us. It moves us along the line. And especially on those difficult days, we keep walking forward when we anticipate, when we see in the distance our salvation, our way forward. A few months before the Berlin Wall fell, and Europe radically changed forever again, people had started gathering on Monday evenings at the Church of St. Nicholas in what was then Leipzig, East Germany. At first, there were just 1,000 people who gathered each Monday night, and all they did was sing. Within 2 months, 300,000 people, half the population of Leipzig, was gathering on Monday nights around the church to do one thing, sing. And the Stasi, the secret police, later admitted that they had no idea what was going on, but they knew something was about to happen. As one officer said, we had no contingency plan for singing. How many refugees in the world this morning are looking at the camp entrance, are waiting for that immigration officer from Canada, who stand in an airport line in Amsterdam, anticipating that the world is going to change in a moment? The chair of the church council in Alexander, Manitoba, when I served that small farming community, Elizabeth Spears, was the first woman to chair that congregation in their 98-year history. She brought in a well, which led to running water and, yes, even a flush toilet in the building after all those years. She started a study group and guided the congregation through many United Church controversies. And in my remembrance, she was embraced by the divine. There are so many people who we have met and who we later can acknowledge to ourselves and perhaps even to them and others that they are embraced by the divine. The woman at Woodruff United who for years ran the food bank in that neighborhood on Mondays. At times she could be a taskmaster, but she was a wonderful spirit of compassion and of service that simply had people lining up to help volunteer with her. You knew that she was embraced by the divine. The Jills and the Malcolms, the Richards and the Julies, the Dons and the Peter and the Betsy's, the Roxannes and the Bills, the Phyllises and the Davids, and that list could go on, of every community of faith who we know are embraced by the divine. Scholar Bill Loader says that is the heart of this meeting between Mary and Elizabeth, that Luke is trying to tell us that these two women have been embraced by the divine, that God is working in them, that God is working through them, and they are not notable personages. History would have passed them by otherwise. But if Elizabeth is right, if they are blessed, their children are blessed, then God is at work in them. It may be that you've balked at some point in your life, in your spiritual journey, from believing that you are embraced by the divine. It can't happen to me. It won't happen in my life. History will barely record my presence, hardly notice my lifespan. And then in some fashion, in some quiet corner, the divine embraces you. And you are on that road to Bethlehem. You are the one through whom God is working in this moment, in this day, and in this time. Quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement is a bomb that defies imagination. It's when two particles of energy are in such close proximity for such a long time, they form a relationship which is so strong that it is apparently possible to take one particle to a lab in Halifax and the other particle to a lab in Vancouver. And what happens to one of them happens to the other particle instantly. Einstein called it spooky. Mary and Elizabeth have quantum entanglement when they meet. What happens to the one happens to the other. And it's spooky because we know that this moment is just a sign that something even more amazing is going to occur. And for each of us, if you stay with God long enough, whatever fashion that may take, then I suspect what will happen is more than quantum entanglement. You get caught up in the everyday miracle of divine entanglement. And through you, God embraces the world even now, even here. Thanks be to God. Amen.